Storytelling is an incredibly powerful tool. We use it to provide information and to motivate people. A story spurs people to take action because suddenly the purpose is more than just an abstract idea. It's a real situation affecting real people. When you put faces to those people being impacted, rather than referring to general people groups, your donors and your parishioners can form the genuine connections to your mission and ministries and will be more willing to help. You are creating deep emotional connections, not only to have them give financially, but you are also building heartfelt connections. When you bring someone into your story, into your church family, they become your ultimate champion.
There we go. Did it again. All right, so as we mentioned earlier, for the second year, the Diocesan Annual Giving Program includes the opportunity for congregations to use visual storytelling through the icons. These icons are not labeled intentionally so that your congregation can assign them the meaning that works best for you. Consider that there are some icons that may lend themselves naturally to your church context and others that might not. If your congregation is older in age and there are a few children that perhaps you don't know how many baptisms or weddings, you might pull away from the children. I'll add here too that if you remember Bishop Bob Eloff, he thought the children running represented a Sadie Hawkins dance. So, maybe you're having a retro dance for your, if your youth begins at 62, you're having a retro dance and it's a Sadie Hawkins. So you could use that. Anyway, that was just a great laugh that he saw Sadie Hawkins in that. Sorry. You might want to consider what all of these different icons mean in your specific church context. The rings together, which may signify weddings to many, might be used to recognize anniversaries if you have an older congregation. The shell that we used for baptism last year could also represent if you all have gone on any sort of pilgrimage. Perhaps some of you have taken virtual pilgrimages this year, or in the past have done a pilgrimage on the Camino, or perhaps in Egypt or the Sinai. I know when I went on a pilgrimage to the Sinai, we were all given shells. So these can have very different meaning depending on your congregation's context and ministries. So be creative and think about the ways that they work for your congregation. And all of these icons are available in different formats. So I would also encourage you to perhaps attach these to your visual budget, and you can make some larger and some smaller. If you have one that represents outreach and mission, it can give a visual indication, like a Venn diagram or separate little sizes together that tells a story. I'm also mindful of reading a spreadsheet and how that takes specific skills. When you use these as your visual budget, it's going to tell a story to the children in your church that they would not see from that Excel spreadsheet. So also think about the different learning capacities within your church and how you can express your values, your works, your ministries to all demographics. Yeah. So we also talked about social media, and these annual giving icons are fantastic thematic graphics for social media posts. When you put together your posting calendar, think about including stories from your narrative budget that create your visual budget. This not only is an opportunity to share fantastic information with your parishioners, but of course with your community as well. Using these icons allows for consistent graphics, consistent messaging, especially if you don't have pictures to include with the post, as many of us may not this year because we have not been together as much. So it helps you spread out the types of posts you have so that you can make sure your posts aren't all about the same ministry area. Stephanie.
Thank you. This example is from one of the annual giving letters, where you'll see that the icons from the previous page were paired with narrative budget style content and put into the stewardship letter as an example of one way to use the annual giving icons. What we're doing in this letter is using the icons as a visual representation of the area of ministry to set off the story of the work you do in your church. Right away, our brains have noticed the color, and we're finding the information more credible and motivating because of the visual component. The icons themselves don't distract because we've seen them before in our church's communications, or because of the power of our brain, we have figured them out almost immediately. You have a lot of great stories to tell, and there is no way to get all of them into the one letter that goes out from your church in August or maybe September. It's a great idea to pick different icons and stories to use in the different communications to parishioners throughout your annual giving campaign and beyond. This way, you'll have stories to tell through your newsletters, in social media, in your stewardship letters, in thank you letters, and in all the ways you communicate with your parishioners. Don't worry about repetition, as much as we would like to think that everyone is just waiting for the next edition of our communications to reach them. We know that it takes folks a few times before they've seen and remembered everything that we have sent.